times 9 is 72. 2 times 9? 18. 18 plus 7?
Elijah Cowell is back at school after an unwelcomed holiday break last winter. His principal thought it was the flu at first.
We were at recess after lunch, and Elijah came up to me and told me that he had a headache. I said, all right, buddy, go ahead and get a drink, have a seat outside the office, and see if it calms down a little bit. And a couple minutes later, he comes back in and says, I'm getting dizzy. I said, all right, I'll come out with you, because our school secretary was not here that day. She was sick, had the flu. So I thought, well, maybe he's getting something.
It was really, really bad, and then everything went blank till pretty much the 23rd. That was on the 10th. So I remember the last 6 days of being in the hospital.
His father remembers the afternoon all too clearly.
I remember coming into the entryway at the school, just outside the office, and there was a pretty large crowd of people. Of course, the ambulance was in front of the door when I came in, but the paramedics, the sheriff deputy, firefighter, first responders were all kind of gathered around. At that point, Elijah was already on a gurney, and paramedics were tending to him, and it was just very, very quiet. I found my wife right away, and we just stood by to find out what we could. Right around 1:30, 2 o'clock, something like that, and we were in a room, admitted to a room in the children's pediatric ICU by 6 p.m. So in this very short stretch of time, all of these little tests were happening, and the meeting with the physician, meeting with the neurosurgeon, and all of that happened, in my view, in a very, very compressed period of time.
Elijah had a grape-sized angioma that slowly grew in his brain. For some reason, that day, it started to bleed.
What we see here is the scan, the CAT scan of the brain, and we see the skull, which is the round white thing, but there is a hemorrhage, an area of blood clot that's in the brain here, that's in the substance of the brain, in the back part of the brain, and going into the ventricles of the brain. This should be spinal fluid in here and in here, so that should be dark gray instead of it's filled with blood from this hemorrhage that occurred in the brain and then went into the ventricle of the brain.
Wednesday afternoon, he left school in an ambulance, and Friday afternoon, he was getting prepped for surgery.
Back at the school, kids, their parents, and the school staff gathered in the cafeteria to pray.
They wanted, prayers for the doctors to use their skills, use their gifts, use their training, and have a successful outcome where Elijah would be healed. They wanted comfort for his family, peace. They wanted him to not have any more pain. They wanted him to not remember that he had the pain. And now, there were more, I don't remember. Now, as we look back, he doesn't remember that day. He remembers telling me he had a headache and nothing else until after his 3rd surgery.
That morning, preceding surgery, we saw a lot of Elijah's prior spark start to return. There was something a little different. Something happened for him on, around Christmas Day, that day after Christmas. There was something different in his recovery that was going on. As a Christian, I know what that was. I saw God working throughout this entire process, through the staff, through just family interactions that we were having, and that period of time was very, very obvious that something was going on with him, something good.
Pressure started to build after the first surgery, and another procedure was needed to drain the fluid in Elijah's skull.
Normally the brain filters the fluid appropriately. In his case, because the blood literally plugged up the the circulation of the spinal fluid. It couldn't get absorbed appropriately, so we had to put a shunt in going from the brain to the belly to divert the excess fluid so it wouldn't build up pressure in the brain.
The basketball team had a game the night of Elijah's surgery, and the announcer took a timeout to honor Elijah.
When they started the basketball game, they started it with prayer, as they always do here at this school, but they included prayers for Elijah and for the doctors and his recovery, and both teams and all of the fans joined in that prayer time, which was really incredible.
Oh, they wrote my number on one of their shoulders and my name. That was so amazing to me when I found that out. That was really cool.
It showed a heart that can only come from God. And that was beautiful. And it carried me through.
This is a MRI scan of his brain after the removal, and you see that big area of the white dot and black and white area is now a much smaller area after the angioma and blood clot had been removed.
It is amazing to me what Elijah's recovery process has been like since we left Covenant. Of course, we had all of the therapies following his release from the hospital. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. Folks there were extremely attentive to his needs as well, and his recovery was, quite frankly, much faster than I think anyone really had anticipated. Not just us, his family members, but also for those providing his care. He was discharged from all 3 therapies earlier than planned because of the progress that he made. When we went back for our follow-up visit with Dr. Shinko, our neurosurgeon, their response upon seeing his progress was, well, I guess we'll see you in 12 months.
There are some side effects from the swelling of the brain.
I can't see my hand at all. Still can't. Now I can see the face of my hand.
Physicians don't believe that peripheral vision on that side will ever recover. So a lot of therapy focused on helping to compensate for that. I'm not sure if that'll come back or not. We'll see. Maybe God still has another miracle there. Maybe not. If not, Elijah has a pretty positive attitude even about that.
Okay, power up, ready, go.
Elijah says he lost the ability to read music.
This is on the left side of the brain, and the left side of the brain is typically involved in most right-handed people with understanding language, and music is a language just like any other language, so I would not have been surprised if something like that would have happened.
As for his 18 days in the hospital, Elijah is quick to say it's not much fun.
I'd say it was a bit worse than school, so pretty bad.
Elijah's progress was updated by the school through the internet, which led to some international support.
The community surrounding them, to have the skilled professionals at Covenant all working together for Elijah, and to have literally people praying for him and for them around the world, because messages came in from all over the world, was a tremendous experience, and something I hope to never have to experience again.
So many people were praying for me. My parents said thousands, like 1,000-ish people, a couple of hundred at least. And a lot of people kept me in their thoughts.